to Merrimac Stories. Today we have with us Eileen Stepanian, also known as Charlotte Eileen Stepanian, and she has many letters besides her name. But I am bringing her to you today not only as our public health nurse, but also as a longtime Merrimac native. So welcome.
Thank you.
You were born here, raised here?
Yes, I was, and I've been here most of my 80 years, except for about 10 years. After I got married, I was living in the Methuen, Andover area. And then when my folks died, they left me the house, and I came back to Merrimac.
Really? So the house that you're currently in on East Main Street is your family homestead?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It doesn't quite resemble it. We kind of modernized it when I came back because at that point I had 4 kids and then managed to acquire 3 more. So we had to kind of expand the facilities a bit.
7 children.
Yes.
You have been very busy.
Yes.
Because this was a time in which you were also working as a nurse at the Amesbury Hospital?
Yes, I worked at Lawrence General Hospital, Amesbury Hospital, and then when that closed, I finished off my hospital career at Holy Family Hospital. So there was about 44 years of active nursing that took place.
Wow. Well, take me back. Were you always interested in nursing? Was this something you thought you would do when you were in high school?
Actually, no. Actually, no. I was very active with 4-H, and I was going to go to the University of Massachusetts, or Mass State back then, and get a degree in home economics and be a county agent. But when we started looking at college costs, that wasn't really going to happen. So it ended up for $150 I could go to nursing school. So that's where I went and became an RN in the mid-50s.
Wow. Where did you go to school for nursing?
I graduated from Malden Hospital.
Malden. Okay.
That's one of those things that it doesn't exist anymore either.
So nursing, you used to go to hospitals to become...
They were diploma schools, and you were kind of in servitude for 3 years while you learned how to become a nurse. They paid you for a token payment. You did the work and got your classes there.
Were you also living there? Did they have nursing headquarters there?
Yeah, they had a nursing home.
So you were not a nursing home.
Nursing home. Nurse's home. Nurse's home.
Okay. Yeah.
A dormitory type thing.
So when you were living there, were there strict rules about how you had to behave? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there was always a house mother, but sometimes it was a feat to sneak past her if you were out a little bit late. But when your nurses started to were working nights, so there was kind of a lot of coming and going. But no, there was always a house mother, and you were accountable. So
what kinds of things would you sneak out for?
If you went out to a movie or something, or you went out on a date, you might have been a little bit late getting back. That's curfew,
okay.
So you'd have a plan for getting back in.
Was there like a 9 o'clock curfew?
It was usually like 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Yeah.
But I mean, you were always working you worked weekends too, but most of the time when you were having classes, you would be working on going to class part of the day and working part of the day. So that was like a Monday through Friday stuff, business.
Yeah. So that was a long, how many years? Was it 2 years?
3.
3 years.
And that was you had a month off in the summer. That was all vacation.
Wow.
So you got essentially the same amount of time as if you were in a 4-year collegiate program. Yeah.
Wow. And you started that in 1950?
After I got out of Merrimac High.
And then you went to Malden, stayed there.
Yeah.
And from there you went to...
I came back home after I graduated and worked a year at Amesbury Hospital. And when I got married, we lived in Methuen, so I worked at Lawrence General. And I was there for 19 years, working weekends. And I worked on pediatrics and pretty much all the time until I had 4 kids. And that really didn't cut the mustard anymore. 5 days or 7 days a week with children, and then going taking care of sick ones on your time away from home. So then after that, I was doing med-surg.
Of all of the different kinds of nursing that you have done, what is the one that you hold closest to your heart?
the one I'm doing right now, public health.
Tell us a little bit about public health.
Well, maybe probably ought to tell you how I came to like public health so much.
Okay.
As healthcare has evolved over the years, it's not care. There isn't too much care really in healthcare per se. It's a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very big business with lots of people getting their livelihood from it. And by livelihood, I mean in businesses and industry that provide all the little niceties that we have today. And in about the time that I finally, I have to back up a wee bit, because in 1971, Arthur Cloyd came to my door one day and asked if I would like to be the new town nurse, because Betty Pittman was going back to work at in the psychiatric hospital where
Mm-hmm.
she spent most of her time working. And I said, well, I guess so. So that was on April 19th, Patriots Day of 1971, I became the town nurse for Merrimac. And I'm still at it all these years later. And that was kind of an evolution of when home care was starting, when people were having care in their home. You had visiting nurses that would come. And I was sort of the visiting nurse for a long time. In probably the mid-'80s, it got to the point where if you wanted to actually provide home care, you had to be a certified agency. But little Merrimac with one nurse didn't meet the criteria, so we never did become a home care agency. Mm-hmm. But I still delivered the nursing care. And the needs of the town evolved. I met them. And when Elder Services, the Older Americans Act came into being, I was asked to do blood pressures at the meal site, which at that time was started out in the basement of the Congregational Church. And as one thing always leads to another, I was doing the blood pressures there, and Mary Village.
And that was in the 1970s.
That was in the 1970s, 1974.
Yeah.
Mary Village was already in existence, and in my infinite wisdom, if I'm doing blood pressures here, there's a whole group of people down there that need blood pressures. So that's how we started the blood pressure clinics at Mary Village that still exist today, once a week. They've been on different days in the week, but currently they're there every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And the residents come up to get their blood pressures checked. Some of the townspeople also come where it's convenient for them instead of coming down to the senior center.
Now, anyone can come to the blood pressure clinics.
Yep.
It's not just for seniors, even though
Nope.
it's at Mary Village or
Nope.
the senior center.
Correct, correct. So people, some of the neighbors.
What are
walk in.
some of the benefits, I just want to interject, about having blood pressure taken at the senior center once a week versus just going to a doctor's office, let's say, and having it done there?
The socialization that takes place there, it's a gathering of people that have, over the years, have become quite friendly, and they're very welcoming to newcomers, and it's socialization is a very calming effect on your blood pressure. So it's sometimes can get very overly social there. But,
Well, one of the things that I've heard is that if you suffer from high blood pressure and you're going to the doctor, it can even go higher because you're nervous about it and you're worried about it. Whereas if you're coming on a regular basis to have your blood pressure taken, the socialization helps to keep it where it should be, and you get a more accurate reading.
It usually is, yes. And everyone gets a card or their record that matches mine that they can show their doctor. One of the little quirks that we've discovered, I mean, it's long been said that there's a white coat syndrome with blood pressures. We think there's a little more to that because observation over the years that when you go to the doctor's office, you are invited to sit up on the exam table, and that's where you take your blood. They take your blood pressure. And forgetting about the fact that when you're sitting there with your legs dangling, not on anything, you're cutting off the circulation at the back of your legs, which ultimately will result in your blood pressure being higher.
Right.
So we have a little survey going on with people that come to the clinics, and when they come for the first time and they tell me what their blood pressure was at the doctor's, I ask where they were sitting. And those with the high blood pressures were invariably always sitting on the end of the exam table with their legs dangling.
That's an excellent observation.
So but the irony of all that is, in all the blood pressure kits or cuffs that I have bought over the years, there's been a little list of instructions on the proper way of taking blood pressures. And every one of them have said that you should sit in a firm chair, a comfortable chair with your feet firmly planted on the floor, your arms comfortably supported at heart height like on a table, and that is how your blood pressure should be taken.
So either the nurse should be holding it to support?
No, even in support.
Not even that?
No, and it should be on a plane with your heart.
Okay.
Not way up here or way down there, but on the plane. So our clinics have in both places meet that criteria, and people have a much more acceptable blood pressure and more accurate, and they're relaxed. But then there's some that no matter where you take your blood pressure, they will.
Now I've noticed something else that you do. When we go to the doctors, they generally just take it from one arm, but you take it from both arms.
Yes.
And the reason for that is?
Because if there is a blockage between, if you've got a clot blocking your circulation, the only thing that they will tell you is that whether it's from coming out from your heart. This way you're comparing both sides of the body, and if there is a blockage, it will be a drastic difference between arms.
And I know that you have discovered that several times, so you can feel perfectly well, but you go in and by taking blood pressure from both sides, you've been able to prevent something worse from happening.
It could be a clot in your leg or something like that. But, no, so all this is when you technically when you do a blood pressure monitoring, you're doing both arms.
Okay. So that's another advantage to coming, is that you get to have that as well. Whereas in a doctor's office, they
only do one arm. They only get paid to do one arm, apparently.
All right. Well, let's take you back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about what Merrimac was like when you were growing up here.
When I was growing up here, there were about 2,500 people. And as we sit here in the town hall doing this recording, just outside the door here is the upper hall of the town hall where I used to play basketball. Merrimac had a very distinct advantage because we were like playing basketball in a fishbowl with a fish net around the court. There were nets hanging from the ceiling on wires that came down to the floor that were the boundaries. And
it seems like it's only a half court.
It's about what it was. It's about what it was, yes.
So they didn't have a standardized court length at that point?
No. Then there was the black line, the usual markings for the floor, but it was a very short court. And people weren't too happy to play here. But of course, when we went to the bigger courts, we were huffing and puffing because there's a lot more running.
Right, so you may have had the advantage here.
We had the advantage here, but
yeah.
But it was girls basketball back then was half court anyways. There were 6 players and not the 5 that we have now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Now that's something I didn't know.
Yes.
What was the name of the drugstore that we had at this time? Do you remember?
I think it was Jones, William Jones.
Way back.
And then it was Callanan and Jubert's.
Jubert's.
I think that was the last one.
Yeah.
We actually had all the services that we have to go out of town for. We had drugstores, we had grocery stores. There were actually 3 grocery stores, 4 grocery stores right in the square area.
4. What were an A&P?
There was an A&P. There was a First National. They were side by each, across the street from here. There was over on where the bank building is now. On the side, on Church Street side, there were stairs that went up, and there was a Linehan's Market. And down where
going up to the back of what is now?
No, it's right. It was facing. There was
really?
a group of stairs that went up, narrowing stairs. It came right up from the sidewalk up into the air. It was like on the upper second floor, so to speak.
Wow.
And then there was another grocery store where the other than the flower shop and that building there next on the other side of where the Baptist church was.
Okay. Where
that
Let's
was-
Go
that was-
Travel is in that
Let's Go-
area?
No, it was before that. And then where Let's Go Travel was, there was Earl's Oil Company, George Earl, and that was an oil company. And across in the building where the Davids and the barber shops and the hairdressers are was Sergeant Coal. There was a coal company. And on the street there was a scale where they weighed the trucks for the loads.
And hardware
There
stores?
was hardware stores, yes, where the town market is, had both been the First National and Davis's Hardware. What else was there?
When did Hoyt's Hardware come in? Some of us remember that one.
That was in the
Us newcomers.
newcomers, yes. Probably in the, I think it was there when I came back to Merrimac in the 60s. It was probably in the 60s, early 60s it went there. And then there was a 5 and 10 on where the block across where the, what was there? Where the video store is now.
Oh, yes.
Down
Well,
in
it
there
was.
on the was, yeah. It's there were 2 stores. There was a like where the restaurant that's closed.
Okay.
There was a variety store there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was all that was there.
And churches, how many churches were there?
There was 4 churches. The Congregational Church, the Baptist Church, which is on the corner of Church and Grove Street, the Catholic Church, and the Methodist Church on the Fort. That's all in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so we're down to 3 churches at this point,
Yep,
but
right.
there
Yeah.
used to be the Baptist Church,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's all for 2,500 people.
2,500 people, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
We still have the distinction of never having a traffic light in Merrimac. It might solve the problem.
I think you were supposed to go like that when
Yeah.
you mention it.
Yeah, but I think maybe the traffic light would serve the purpose better than a rotary might.
Well,
That's my thoughts, but anyways, we'll see.
yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of conversation about that and obviously many studies, so
Yes.
we don't really have a choice in that matter.
It seems.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about, were there any apartment buildings that have now gone? Or I know there used to be a hotel. When did that disappear? Do
I
you
can
know?
vaguely remember when I was little, it's where the hotel was where the light department is, the light office is now. Where we can go to pay the bills.
Okay.
There was a Legion home, sort of in between where Janae's and the Havel Bank is now, and where the milk store.
Variety store there?
The milk store. What is it? I was going to say it's Cumberland, but it isn't. I think of the name of it.
Richdale's.
Richdale's, yes. There was a walkway, and the Legion home was built there, and the Girl Scouts and the Scouts used to have their meetings there.
Oh,
My daughter
Yeah.
reminds me that she went to Girl Scouts there.
wow. Yeah, I vaguely remember that when we moved into town, which was December of '79, so it was still there, but I believe it went
And there was a
shortly
big,
thereafter.
Great big huge spruce tree out by the street there that used to get decorated for Christmas.
Oh,
Christmas lights there.
yeah.
Before they had the Kimball Park now,
And the high school was located
where Mary Village
where
is.
Mary Village is.
And there was another school on Prospect Street, between the little block between Prospect and Spring. There was a junior high school.
Really?
There was 7th and 8th grades were there.
Mm-hmm.
And then where the Rhythm Cafe is now with the elementary school, which was the first 6th grades. And there's some of the historical pictures around that remember well.
Mm-hmm.
And right in back of the town hall was a grain store. And that had several owners, but there was a lot of everybody had chickens and whatnot back then, so that's where you could get your grain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what else was there. And the center school here, right in the square, there was a rather steep banking that went down to the brook, which is down below there on the East Main Street side, that people would have cardboard that they would slide down on during recess and do well if they didn't end up in the workroom.
Wow. And this was all before 495 was
Mhm.
put through,
Yep.
which happened
In the mid-60s.
mid-60s.
Mhm.
So what was it like here in the summertime, where there was no other way to get to the beach but
Very
Route-
busy. You
Route
stayed-
110,
you
right?
stayed home. You didn't leave your house or yard very often, except with long, careful planning on Saturdays and Sundays. It was back-to-back traffic.
I remember Betty Pittman telling me a story that everybody kept a broom by their door because of the many accidents
Mhm.
and the glass that would be
Yeah.
on the road from these accidents.
The curve coming down by where my house from up down on East Main Street is, I think over the years there's been about 80 accidents.
Wow.
And there have been some fatal ones, so
Mm,
it's weren't nice.
yeah, that's terrible.
And in fact, our house got nicked one time. That's why we have the bushes out front,
Ah,
the little buffer zone.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be a dangerous
Mm,
curve,
that is.
absolutely. How would you get out? Was there any kind of traffic person that would stop traffic to let people out in the center? How did
There
that
was
work?
a sort of a landmark by the name of Smitty, who was the evening constable that directed traffic on that island up in the square. So you had to plan it well to be able to get out. Yeah,
So he was only there in the evenings?
he was always there in the evening, and he was a fixture there on Sunday evenings particularly.
Okay,
Yeah.
Smitty.
Smitty, yeah, that was his name.
That's awesome.
yeah.
Now, did he have a box that he stood in or
I think
anything
there was
like
one
that?
out there at one point, yeah, up
Mhm.
on that island that we still have there. Yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of self-protection.
We'll
or
have to see
something.
if we can find a picture of that. I wonder
Yeah.
if there's something in the historical
There
museum
must be.
that
There
shows
should
what
be
that was
something,
like.
yeah. Mm.
Tell me a little bit about what Halloween was like back then. Did you guys do anything different than happens today?
Well,
Beggars Night.
It was safe to go trick-or-treating, which now you just really don't do.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't think I ever went trick-or-treating. I went out once with kids when I was in high school, some friends, and somebody knocked on somebody's window and the glass fell out, and we ran like the devil. I got out of there quick. I think that was the last time.
So much for that.
So much for that, yes. And some of my high school classmates, the boys, I can remember when Halloween apparently hung a lantern on the end of the flagpole which came out from the building. I don't know how they got in there, but somehow or other they hung a lantern on the end of the flagpole. I think that was
The trick.
the high adventure for that year.
Yeah.
Uh,
How many students were there in all of the classes that you were attending?
There were 16 in my graduating class.
16.
16, yeah.
16
1-6, yes.
total.
Total. And then I went to nursing school and there was 64. So you...
That was a big jump.
It was a big jump, yeah. I think there probably, I don't know if there was 100 in the whole school.
I can't
Mhm.
even imagine that.
So, I mean, when you look at the memorial that's by Murray Village on Middle Street there now,
Mhm.
that's what it, essentially in today's standard, it looked like a cow barn, a big cow barn. But it was
Wow.
about that size, but it had a lot of windows, so
Yeah.
that's what qualified it as a school.
Which school was the arch enemy, as it were?
West Newbury. And then it got to be Groveland.
Really?
Yeah, West Newbury and Groveland, yeah.
And the reason was that sports related?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Groveland got to be more so than West Newbury. Because, it's thought Groveland played dirty.
Oh, we better not play
Right,
this
no.
in Groveland.
No, I wouldn't, no.
Would you say the class size was about the same in the other towns as it was here?
I think that, yeah.
16
Well, we
or
belonged
so?
to the school, the basketball, or the sports league was the Merrimac Valley Small School League. And so,
Okay.
I mean, it was pretty true to the name that it was small schools.
Wow.
There was Hampstead, there was, we played, I can't remember if they were part of the league, but I think they were originally. At Woodbury High in Salem, New Hampshire. And then Salem kind of had a population growth and got bigger than we were. But it was Hampstead, Merrimac, West Newbury, Groveland, Georgetown, and Topsfield.
Okay.
So most of them are still pretty small schools. Georgetown, I guess, has got more.
Now,
than that.
obviously, you played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Were you
Um,
into any other high
Softball.
school activity?
Softball,
Softball?
too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We occasionally had some track, but I didn't run that fast.
You were too tall?
I think I was too tall, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I would venture to say you were probably the tallest girl in your class.
Probably the tallest girl in the school. And I think I was
Amazing.
probably a junior in high school before the boys finally passed me.
Wow.
So it was, one could get a complex like that.
I can understand why, yeah.
Yeah.
Always looking heads above everyone else, yeah.
And then they finally did got their growth spurt when they were about 16.
Yeah. Now, you said you have 7 kids. Where are they all located, and what kinds of things have they been involved in? Any of them get into nursing? Or?
No. I guess they didn't like the hours I had to work or something. There's 2 of them are carpenters. My father was a cabinet maker by trade, so I guess they got those skills. One of my second son, Robbie, had some technical skills. He was working on plastic design, and then now he and his wife run Skips here in Merrimac. One of my daughters, my oldest daughter, is widowed, and she's very talented with flowers. That's where she gets her passion. My youngest son just retired as a state trooper.
Which I find
It was-
extremely amusing that you're
yes.
still working and
I
he
know.
retired.
At 47, he retired. But you have to retire after so many years and then a state job like that.
Yeah.
So, but I made that point when I went to his retirement party that there was something wrong with the picture here, that I'm still working and he's retired. So he's got a part-time job that has got nothing to do, well, essentially he's got nothing to do with law enforcement now, so, because there was a big time difference. He was a gentleman farmer over the summer, and he's got into gardening too. And another daughter, my other daughter, the youngest daughter is still living at home. She's my new mother, now that I'm so old that I need watching. That's her part of her job, and she also works with my other one of my sons at Skips, and my other
She's
daughter.
a wonderful cake maker.
Yeah, she's quite a
She's
skilled baker.
very artistic in
Yes,
that.
She is. She's,
Yes.
both my oldest and my youngest daughter are very artsy, crafty, and my other daughter has one son and got remarried and has 3 stepchildren. And the oldest of which is graduating from nursing school, where I'm going to be pinning him. He's graduating.
Very
He's
nice.
at college, one of the colleges where I teach.
So finally we have someone.
We have, so it's a step-grandson.
Isn't that
Yeah,
wonderful?
so really good. And he's going to his induction into Sigma Theta Tau, the Nursing Honor Society.
Oh, that's wonderful.
In 2 weeks, so it'll be 10 years since, and at the same college where I was inducted.
That's
So
great.
It's nice.
That's
Good.
very nice. So tell us a little bit about some of the honors you've recently received.
Oh dear. Well, the most recent one was the William Wald Service Awards in the American Public Health Association, which is given annually to someone in the country that exemplifies William Wald, who was the pioneer that initiated public health nursing here in this country back in the early 1900s.
In New York.
In New York City. People may have heard of the Henry Street Settlement House. This is which gained fame for the troop of nurses that she had gathered there and developed nursing care in tenement houses in New York City back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, when this country was flooded with immigrants. Conditions were pretty bad, and in the beginning, got the beginnings of sanitation in New York City, and William Wald pretty much changed the way health care was given or delivered. Worked with Prudential Insurance, getting people covered for care, and actually established the first school nurses in New York City too.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So every year the American Public Health Association, the Public Health Nursing Section, which I'm a member, gives one of 3 or 4 awards, and I was the one chosen this past year.
And you were nominated because of all of the advocacy that you've done. Many people don't realize the many things you do outside of the town of Merrimac. Not only have you done the public health nursing here, but you also teach and you advocate through the Massachusetts Public Health Nursing Association and have served as president for that as well. And all of these things led you to this award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Which you got the week you turned 80.
Yes, the day after I turned 80, actually in San Francisco. So that was quite a memorable birthday.
Yes.
So 3 of my sons and my youngest daughter came out there and were present. So it was quite a blast. And then when I got back, I was surprised with quite a large luncheon at the senior center, which there was all kinds of accolades that day. And my youngest daughter, for my Christmas, put together a photo album of our adventures in San Francisco that really was quite neat. I think it's a company called Shutterfly, and my publicity here, that did a great job. And she took the pictures and did the background, and they produced the book. It was quite a memento.
Nice.
And the next thing is the end of April, I'm going to be inducted as a fellow in the local Public Health Institute of Massachusetts.
Isn't that wonderful?
So this is
and
a busy time.
And you're teaching
and
now?
I'm teaching in 2 colleges now. And, and I think I finally come to realize you got to be careful how much you take on, because there aren't enough hours in the day. Now, I graduated from St. Joseph's College in Maine, and I've been teaching there since 2005 in the master's program with 2 courses that are essentially public health and putting a course to practice. And I'm also teaching community health undergraduate at Endicott College, where my nursing school became their program. When the Northern Hospital closed, or the school closed in 1989, they went lock, stock, and barrel to Endicott College and became their nursing program. So, among other things, I'm also an Endicott alumni, so I have more alumni associations that want my participation these days. So that's what I'm doing 1 day a week teaching there.
And people think I'm busy.
Yes, well, I think we're both very busy. I think.
Wow. Now, for people that don't understand what public health does, we've talked a little bit about the fact that you're available at the senior center for questions, not just blood pressure. But you are there as well in your public health nursing capacity, but you also are available to do other things. What other kinds of things do you do in the community?
Much of what I do is what insurance doesn't do, won't pay for people. One of the things that I have a routine every Monday is doing medication fills. That's not considered the skilled nursing function. But when individuals have 15 and 20 different medications that they have to take at various times during the course of the day, it's very confusing, and you take things under certain conditions, either on an empty stomach or with food at this time or that time. So this is what I do plan. So I call it medication management. Because that's what you're doing, is managing. And then you have to make sure that there's enough pills there to when you come back the next week, to be able to fill them. So you're doing
medication
management.
Yes.
When things that the many things that health insurances do not cover. So you name it, and I'm probably out there doing it. It's just an assessment.
If somebody has a wound or a dressing that needs to be checked, you are available to do that, and you know, that sort of thing. And just trying to think some of the other things that I've seen you do. There's so many. Particularly, I think if people don't understand what a doctor has prescribed or information they've given to you. I know that it's really difficult sometimes. You're almost afraid to take up too much time in the doctor's office. They give you so much information. You go home, you're sitting there and you're looking at it and going, yeah, I'm not sure I understand this.
So we work through it, and quite often you see people, you may not see people that often, but when the ones that are the less frequent flyers will come before they go to the doctor, so they are prepared and they know what it is. And not, yeah, so
What to ask.
what to ask and what. So you name it, if you don't know about it, people want to know when they're newly diagnosed diabetics, if they, what can they eat, or if they're on the verge of becoming told they're about to be a diabetic, what do they need for their diets. And
one of the other things that you're frequently talking about, and we're about to come into the season with April, and that's Lyme's and ticks.
And even this, when the years that we have bare ground in the wintertime, I close the columns that I write every month. Don't forget the tick check. So whenever you're outside and doing any work where there's grassy wooded areas, you need to do a tick check. One of my sons who lives nearby now had his dogs out recently, and he spent quite a long time picking ticks off the dogs.
I was just going to say, as soon as the snow melts and you have a little bit of sun.
Yeah, they're back again. And Lyme disease and the associated tick-borne diseases are the most frequent reported disease reports we get in Merrimac. It's been that way for years. So, and it doesn't matter how young or how old.
What kinds of things present so that people would be aware to perhaps be checked for Lyme disease?
There's still a problem with the medical community. Most people don't think there is such a thing, or at least not chronic Lyme. When you suddenly have, for no reason, have painful joints or knee pain that you did not get an injury, or just general not feeling well, aches and pains like a arthritic type flare-up.
So you should always be checked. Now, it's just, I've heard there's two different kinds of blood tests for Lyme's disease.
There's a Lyme titer, but that's the first one they do, which really doesn't tell you anything. But there's the Western blot is the definitive one. Western blot, B-L-O-T.
B-L-O-T.
Blot,
okay, Western blot.
Yeah. Is the one that is more definitive. It looks at all the subtypes. But there's Lyme disease, there's Babesia, ehrlichiosis, and there's anaplasmosis now. There's another tick-borne disease that you have to, a lot of people are getting to. So it isn't just one thing, it's many.
I didn't realize they had so many different subcategories of them.
They do. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do a public health announcement on that one.
Yes, we have to do a PSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that people are still telling me that they're seeing the hand washing one that I did. So, but just hand washing isn't just in flu season. That's year round.
I was going to just say that.
Yeah.
It's year
It's
round.
year round, so always wash those hands.
Right. For your own safety, wherever you are, you're about to eat in a restaurant, you've touched how many things coming into the restaurant. Go wash your hands before you eat.
Yes. Or carry that little bottle of hand sanitizer with you.
Yeah.
So use that one. All else fails.
Yeah. So what do you think of your town of Merrimac now that you've been here for nearly 80 years, mostly 80 years?
Yeah, most of 80 years. It still has its small town appeal. When I've been to the big city, so to speak, and come back home off the highway when coming over Broad Street Bridge, it's nice to come back to a little small town. I equate it to rural health, which instead not urban or suburban health, but we're still pretty rural, I think. We don't have all the amenities that more populated areas have, but we seem to manage without them. Probably, I would say, probably the biggest concern that people have and what we see at the senior center is the transportation issue, that unless you have a car, you probably can't get there from here. And it's unfortunate that life has got to be that way, but we do have a bus service, which is of help to some degree. But when it's doctor's appointments that aren't always on the bus line,
Which
it's a big
what's
problem.
so wonderful about having the van
Yeah,
service
yeah.
and the volunteer drivers
Mm.
that we have that can help bring people to appointments and grocery shopping, even
mhm.
hairdresser's appointment if it's local.
I mean, this is a problem with many of my students that I have at St. Joe's. When they're in their course, they have to assess their community, and transportation is pretty nearly always a problem because it isn't just Merrimac that doesn't have transportation, public transportation that's accessible for everyone, but it's pretty much widespread. So unless you either drive a car or have a friend that's got one that's willing to take you, you can be kind of stuck in place. But
So I have one last question.
yes, ma'am.
Do you ever see retirement in your future?
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, we hope not.
Not yet, no.
You're doing a
I'm-
wonderful job, and the community is really blessed by having you here and caring for us and advocating for public health and continued good health. We thank you.
Thank you. I think some wording that I called last fall's column, I guess people thought I was retiring or I had retired with all the publicity, and I said, no, I'm not retired yet.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but, no.
Well, we thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll have you back, I'm sure, for some public health announcement, PSAs, in the
Good.
future.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.